Thank y'all for being here today. Great hearing so far in Senate Bill 7. That's why we're here. The Texas Women's Privacy Act. Look, this is common sense. It's common sense to want to make sure that we don't allow men in women's private spaces like restrooms and locker rooms and showers and family violence shelters and prisons. And these are boundaries that have existed for generations. And they're boundaries based on biological truth. They're boundaries based on biblical truth. And so what this bill does is it restores those boundaries and makes them enforceable. And I authored and passed the Save Women's Sports Act. And we have many of you here today that helped get that done. We all know Riley Gaines, and we have our female athletes here as well. And what that did is that kicked men out of women's college sports. Because men were stealing fairness. They were stealing opportunity. They were stealing victory. And as part of that, we heard Riley's story. And one of the things that she said really struck me. So Leah Thomas, not only did he steal that spot on the podium, he was in her locker room, naked, against her consent. Many of her teammates were upset. And so what this bill does is it fixes that, and it restores privacy in women's restrooms, locker rooms, and showers, the very thing that Riley has fought for. And now, of course, we have many advocates here with us today, and I'd like to turn it over for a little bit to Mary Elizabeth Castle. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Elizabeth Castle. I'm Director of Government Relations for Texas Values. Today we heard Senate Bill 7, the Texas Women's Privacy Act, and I am excited to see that the Texas legislature is moving quickly to pass important legislation to protect Texas women and girls. In the regular session, Texas proved that we know what a woman is. Now we will prove that you don't mess with Texas women in their privacy and dignity. Women's privacy and dignity is a non-negotiable. It is common sense to provide a safe, separate space for both men and women in locker rooms, showers, restrooms, prisons, and domestic violence shelters. The coalition of support for the Texas Women's Privacy Act is ever growing. Groups that support it include Texas Values, Texas Pastors Council, American Principles Project, Patriot Mobile, Texas Family Project, Texas Eagle Forum, Moms for Liberty Texas, Moms for America, Alliance Defending Freedom Action, Independent Women's Voice, and so many more. Last week, Representative Valerie Swanson received support from 81 Texas House members on her bill, House Bill 32, which is identical to the bill by Senator Mays Middleton that we heard today. Texas cannot wait. We cannot delay. We know that school is starting very soon in our state, and that we know how this is a prevalent issue in our schools where men are entering women's spaces, and it spreads across not just schools but in different areas as well. This is an issue that women face every single day, and it's very common sense for thousands of years, and for even since 1972 from federal law, that we protect women in their private spaces. I'll turn it over to Senator Mays Middleton.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. This is really simple. Texas is not going to bend to the woke left's gender identity delusions. And this bill has strong penalties to enforce that. The first is a $5,000 penalty on the first complaint, and then it goes up to $25,000 per day. And this is enforced by citizen complaints as well as the Texas Attorney General. And there's a private cause of action in this bill as well. So this bill has real teeth for enforcement, and it will be enforced. And look, there are only two God-given sexes, male and female, and that's it. And as a dad and as a husband, I don't want a man entering my little girl's bathroom. I don't want a man entering my wife's bathroom. I don't want a man entering my mother's restroom. This is common sense. We are not going to sacrifice the safety and privacy of women in the state to the left's gender ideology agenda. And we're also going to make sure that women are not forcibly exposed to men pretending to be women in their private spaces. We have got to get this bill done for all the daughters of this great state. And I'm going to turn it over to Brooke Slusser's mom.
Hi, my name is Kim Slusser. I live in Denton, Texas, and Brooke really wanted to be here today, but she just moved, so she's moving in her apartment and getting things settled. So I'm here to represent myself because I also went through it, but her. And here to say that this Senate Bill 7, it has to pass. After everything that we went through at San Jose State University with my daughter Brooke on the volleyball team with a man without knowing it, it's hard for me not to get emotional. I don't want to get emotional about it, but I always say that the blast radius effect, I got it from a guy that writes a Substack, so it's not my words, it's his, is just immeasurable, because everybody always says it's just one man. It's just one man in your space. It's just one man on your team. It's just one man in your locker room. But the effect that that has is just astronomical. I am going to go back. That I wasn't planning on going off the cuff like that, but I do want to kind of read a little bit of what my thoughts were that I wrote, that I said in there. Brooke was forced to share intimate private spaces, including her apartment, hotel rooms, locker rooms, with the biological male. San Jose State never told her. She was never asked how she felt, and she certainly was never protected. Instead, she and her teammates were expected to stay silent. We're told, it's not your story. Conform and suppress their discomfort for the sake of someone else's inclusion. Even with that inclusion violated their privacy, fairness, and dignity. Brooke joined the Riley Gaines lawsuit in 2024, but some of you may not know she also has her own lawsuit with the Independent Council on Women's Sports against San Jose State University, against the Mountain West Conference, and also against 3 administrators at the school, including the head coach, who is still there, by the way. After joining the lawsuit, she felt targeted, isolated, and ultimately placed in harm's way. She became the subject of a plot at a game at Colorado State University. They actually brought triple the police force in that day because Brooke was threatened not only by the trans-identifying male on the team plotted with another player on the Colorado State team to hurt her, but also online she was told it was basically a death threat. I don't remember the exact words, but it was a death threat, so they upped the security that night. She became the subject of a plot by Blair Fleming to injure her during a match, a case serious enough to trigger a formal investigation and eventually a formal Title IX complaint. Brooke's case drew national attention, not just because of the danger involved, but because of what it said about the erosion of women's protections everywhere. When institutions put ideology above common sense sex-based boundaries, it is the women and girls, our daughters, who pay the price. They lose not only their right to safe play, but to basic privacy, dignity, and fairness. Senate Bill 7 is not about discrimination. It's about setting clear, fair rules that protect everyone. Women and girls' safety should never be negotiable. This bill provides a necessary correction and a clear message that Texas stands with women, protecting their right to private spaces and without fear of having their boundaries crossed. I'm here not just as a mother, but also as an advocate for every young woman that's too afraid to speak out. Brooke was the only one on her team that spoke out when every other girl on the team wanted to, but they were scared to death. Scared their scholarship was going to be taken away, scared that they were going to be benched, scared of whatever. Brooke was a senior, so she had a little more leeway of speaking out. These girls that were freshmen and sophomores, they were scared out of their minds. Let Brooke's story be a wake-up call. Girls in Texas deserve the right to privacy, safety, and fairness. Women and girls are counting on this bill to pass. Please don't let what happened to Brooke happen again. Thank you, and God bless.
My name is Amy Ichikawa. I am an ambassador for Independent Women, and I'm the founder of Woman to Woman, which is a support group for incarcerated women across the country. And Senate Bill 7 is extremely vital to the continuance of protecting females. Women and girls definitely need this in the state of Texas and nationwide, really. I served almost 5 years in the Central California Women's Facility, and this, at the time, it was the largest women's prison in our country. During that time, I personally experienced how vital it is to have single-sex spaces for the safety, privacy, and rehabilitation of incarcerated women. California passed a bill called SB 132, which is the Transgender Respect Agency and Dignity Act, and it allows any male inmate to transfer into women's prisons without undergoing any kind of gender-affirming health care. I began to receive desperate calls, letters, emails from women still in prison, women that I don't even know. They were begging for help as men were being placed in their cells, and their lives have been turned completely upside down. Women in prison already live in conditions where privacy is almost non-existent. Now they're being forced to share small cells, overcrowded spaces with men, including those with violent criminal histories. Many of them have long histories of violent sex offenses. In California, it's 33.8% of the intended transfers. Senate Bill 7 would preserve the legal existence of women as distinct from men. This bill provides legal protection to defend women's single-sex spaces, such as locker rooms, rape crisis centers, dormitories, and prisons, which are critical for the dignity and well-being of women, especially those in vulnerable settings like prisons and shelters. Recent action in federal legislation safeguards women on some level, but we need to codify this in state law. The Texas legislature needs to pass SB 7 to ensure these rights are fully safeguarded. We want to ensure the rights of all people are protected, but when men invade women's spaces like prisons, women are disproportionately harmed and their rights are discarded in the name of inclusion. You can be both for equality and single-sex spaces. Similar legislation has been received with bipartisan support across the country. Recent polling has shown that 91% of Americans agree when it comes to prisons, there are important reasons why they are separated by sex. This issue is deeply personal for me, and I know what it's like to live in a cell where privacy is a luxury and safety is a constant concern. I know the fear of being unable to escape, of not being listened to when you ask for help, and I also know the importance of standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. So I really, really hope that the state of Texas will fully support this amazing bill.
It's great witnesses, great testimony here today. Incredibly powerful in committee as well. And I'd love to open it up for a couple questions if there are any on SB 7. Well, thank y'all for coming out today. I want to thank all the activists here that have shown up, taken the time, got here at 8 in the morning probably, or even earlier, all to support what we all know is common sense: safety and privacy for our women and children of Texas. And let's get this victory done for all the daughters of this great state.